morning. Weeks seem to move rather quickly. Tomorrow, Friday, we will be broadcasting live from Scramblers, the Friday Road Show. Apparently, the Sunshine Bridge is open. They opened early.
What?
Yesterday, they announced it'd be Friday. Do you think that's a little tactic they use? That bridge there. Of course, it's been closed forever. It was supposed to be finished on or in December, but it got delayed. Not by as much as I think. Well, I know not by as much as I thought, because generally these projects are way off in terms of the length of time. And then I think it was yesterday or the day before. I said, "Oh, it'll be Friday." Well, it's open this morning. Do you think they do that so they can be like, "We opened early.
Maybe.
Look at us ahead of schedule."
Well, that's what we were talking about yesterday.
I wondered if it wasn't going to open this morning, because when the scenic intersection, I'm coming in, going eastbound, and then I'm at that light at scenic where the cutoff is at that point, and there was a truck on the other side of the barricades there, and the lights were on, and I thought, I wonder if they're getting ready to start removing some of that temporary infrastructure blocking traffic, and apparently that is the case.
Very exciting. Moving up in the world.
So just drive that puppy like there's no tomorrow. I mean, you just
even go that way, and I think I might just take a little spin.
Yeah, like, look at all those food trucks down there. I mean, there are a lot of businesses, of course, that it's just really, really hit hard, as that sort of construction almost always does. And I'm sure it'll be a great relief to those that hopefully they all survived it. When government blocks off access, or at least easy access to private industry for the purposes of infrastructure improvements. Generally, there are a number of private sector people who suffer greatly for it. So hopefully they were all able to survive that. Of course, the story that there's going to be a great deal of discussion about today, as left-wing organizations are already mobilizing in order to capitalize off of the self-defense shooting by an ICE officer of a woman who hit him with her vehicle. That is illegal, for those that apparently don't seem to understand that. You can't do that. It seems to be some real misunderstandings as to what is going on out there. A lot of discussion about, well, now, wait a minute, did she hit him before or after he shot? That's not how that works. It doesn't matter. A vehicle is legally classified in this sort of context as a weapon, just like a knife or a gun. A police officer, if somebody is coming at an officer with a knife, the officer does not have to wait until he is stabbed with the knife to use deadly force. If somebody pulls a firearm and points it at a police officer, the police officer does not have to wait until he is shot in order to shoot back. When a person is in a vehicle and driving towards a law enforcement officer, that vehicle is classified as a weapon, just like a gun or a knife. And just like you don't have to wait to be stabbed or shot, you don't have to wait to be hit by the car before you use deadly force. The absurdity of some of these positions, that if you just think them through, well, no, which, by the way, I don't believe that he fired before he was hit with the vehicle based off of the video, but that's irrelevant. I almost hate to discuss that point because it makes it seem as if that is a relevant point. It's not. Can you imagine the absurdity of this? Telling somebody in law enforcement, if a vehicle's bearing down on them, no matter how clear it may be that the intent is to kill them, well, you have to wait until you're hit, or, well, you just have to try to get out of the way, and if you're unsuccessful and you get run over, then you can use deadly force. Well, at that point, what's the point? I'm going to play coming up here the press conference, Kristi Noem, some of the Q&As. I thought it was a really great press conference. Kristi Noem, she can sometimes receive criticism for her communication. I felt that she did an excellent job, not just in laying out here are the facts that we know, but also answering questions regarding a number of different things. And there's this other. They just keep talking about, well, the ICE shouldn't be there. What? So who picks what laws get enforced? I think maybe we need to determine this, because clearly there is this accepted approach that some people are taking, that there are some laws that are not only not supposed to be enforced, but it's bad to enforce them. Now, it seems as if they're laws that apply to people who aren't in this country legally. I'm still waiting to hear what law I get to ignore, and under what circumstances I get to flee from police and perhaps even run over one. Who picks and chooses? Because according to the Democrats, and you've got the mayor of Minneapolis, that after this gal attempted to run over the ICE officer, told ICE to get the F out of Minneapolis at a press conference. That these individuals are horrible because are we all under some sort of illusion that these laws that they are sworn to uphold were passed at some point in the middle of the night by only Republicans? These laws are on the books because Democrats voted for them as well. I'm talking about the immigration laws. This isn't action that's being taken because Donald Trump all of a sudden made up some new laws and dispatched ICE agents. In fact, do you know why ICE agents even exist? To enforce laws that have been put on the books, that have been voted on by both Republicans and Democrats and signed into law. The very people who are running around demonizing these men and women, these moms and dads who have signed up and sworn to uphold these laws, the people who are criticizing them and putting targets on their back are some of the very same people who voted to put these laws in place. If you don't like laws, especially ones that you have voted for, then you repeal them, or you attempt to repeal them. And if you don't have enough votes to do that, then you wait till the next election and you try and get other people who have your same belief system elected so that you get enough votes to undo what it is that you don't like. You don't simply decide, no, those laws should no longer be enforced because I don't like them. And you certainly don't put a target on the back of the Americans who are simply doing what it is that they have sworn to do based off of laws that you passed. Some of that press conference coming up. We've got Christy Fulnecki coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. Author of the Week, 8 o'clock hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers and thunderstorms mainly before 3 p.m. with a high near 67. Tonight, isolated showers before 9 p.m. with a low around 40. For your Friday, partly sunny with a high near 54. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 45.
yesterday here, I want to play for you the audio of the press conference, Kristi Noem, regarding what the Department of Homeland Security clearly is at least verbally classifying as domestic terrorism, and that is the use of a vehicle to which did hit, you can see in the video, the ICE officer. And whether that was the intent or it was incidental, it's irrelevant, legally speaking. Either one of those scenarios are one in which the law dictates that law enforcement is able to use deadly force in order to protect themselves. So whether he shot before or after he was hit, or whether that was in her intent to hit him, none of that is relevant in terms of the legalities of this. And I'll tell you, they want to, this is what the Democrats are saying. All this is occurring because ICE is there. No. ICE doing what ICE is supposed to be doing and legally obligated to do did not force a woman to try and obstruct them from doing their job and then flee the scene. That is a decision that was made because of a culture in which Democrats have encouraged that sort of behavior. As Kristi Noem notes here, this is nothing new. This is an MO of left-wing activists to use vehicles as weapons against ICE agents when they're not using guns.
Here in Minneapolis today. Any loss of life is a tragedy, and I think all of us can agree that in this situation it was preventable. I've spoken to the president today on the situation here on the ground. I also just got off the phone a little while ago with Governor Walz and spoke to him as well. I want to reiterate first with all of you the facts of what happened today. At 10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family. I encourage the American people at this point in time to pray for him, but also to pray for the deceased's family and her loved ones. Today alone in this country, there have been 4 different domestic terrorist attacks on federal officers by the ramming of vehicles. 3 of them happened here in Minneapolis. We've seen over 100 of these vehicle rammings happen in just recent weeks, and this must stop. ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them. In fact, the very same officer who was attacked today had previously been dragged by an anti-ICE rioter who had rammed him with a car and drug him back in June. He sustained injuries at that time as well. And let me remind you why we're all here in this city today and why we've been here. In communities across this country and here in Minneapolis, we're just enforcing the laws that we have in this country. For years under President Biden, tens of millions of dangerous criminal illegal aliens, terrorists, and suspected terrorists were allowed to invade our country over our southern border. They were allowed to steal, to defraud, and to perpetuate violence against American citizens. Regardless of who your mayor or who your governor is, President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again. He promised every single American that he would work to protect them from dangerous criminals. Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Frye's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes. Because Governor Walz and Mayor Frey refuse to protect Minnesotans, and instead they protect these criminals, that's why we are here. And we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. But we're surging operations because of the dangerous situation we see in this country, and because we're no longer going to allow illegal criminals to damage and harm, to kill, to sexually abuse, to proliferate drugs, and to steal American taxpayers' dollars. This state has faced unprecedented immigration fraud. It's seen unprecedented benefit fraud. Individuals were allowed to come into this country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens and those vulnerable citizens who truly needed the services from those programs. This city has burned before, and your mayor and your governor let it happen. President Trump is not going to let that happen. He and our federal law enforcement officers are here to bring peace and to bring public safety and to ensure that criminal activity is stopped and that people who perpetuate it will face consequences. Since we have been here in recent weeks, we have arrested over 1,500 criminals off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city. We should all work together to protect our citizens. We should all protect the men and the women and the families who live here in Minneapolis, who live in Minnesota, and live throughout this entire country. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for focusing on the important work that our federal officers do and make sure that we're focused on the priorities of this country, and that's making sure that we're keeping people safe.
All right, that was Kristi Noem yesterday, press conference with covering the situation in Minneapolis. And I mean, Minnesota is certainly I think we're all becoming enlightened to what essentially a third world country Minnesota has been turned into. And it's I don't know how much one has influence over the other, but increasingly it's interesting that Minnesota seems to operate like Somalia does. And that is that you have these different classes of people. Some are allowed to break the law, while others have the law weaponized against them. And it's aside from all of the fraud that has occurred and the stealing of taxpayer dollars, and it's an amazing thing to watch unfold. The latter part and the bulk of the press conference was talking about situations outside of the specific event that took place yesterday. And while some may see it as, oh, here just taking jabs at Tim Walz and Mayor Frey of Minneapolis, no, this is necessary background. What she's doing here is explaining this is why we're here. It isn't like we just, number one, invented ICE. ICE never existed. There are no immigration laws. Donald Trump just decided to get a bunch of people to go, put badges on them and sent them to Minnesota, sent them to Minneapolis and, other parts of the country, and made up a bunch of immigration laws and then randomly picked people for deportation. Kristi Noem is explaining here and detailing this background. Here's why we're doing it. First off, these are not laws we created. And secondly, here are all of the bad things that are going on. This is why we are here. We are doing our job. If we are going to accept the proposition that Democrats have put forth, that when it comes to our immigration laws, they should not be enforced, and when there is an attempt to enforce them, people have the right to block traffic. They have the right to, when there is an attempt to stop them or to detain them for blocking traffic or blocking law enforcement from enforcing the law. It is your right or patriotic duty, as Tim Walz described it yesterday, to protest it. You can protest all you want, but to try to illegally evade police, hit them with your vehicle, then no law matters. Zero. None. Pick a law. Whichever law you want. Because if Democrats get to pick laws that not only do we not have to abide by, but we are able to virtuously fight against those who are tasked with enforcing the law, then nothing matters. Zero in terms of law. Every law is irrelevant. The irony is it's generally people who are more conservative, like me, or it's all relative, I suppose. I don't want to be one of those, I don't like labels, but I think they can be misleading in this day and age. But point being, I'm somebody who believes that probably 90% of our laws should not even exist. But I also recognize that you got to follow the laws, and if you choose not to, you have to at least accept the fact that if you get caught, you face the consequences. Because otherwise, not a single law matters. And every law enforcement officer is up for fair game. Every one of them. Is that really? I want to say to these people, can you imagine? So you call 911, somebody breaks into your home, law enforcement shows up, and then there are people there to protest against you and attack police officers for trying to enforce the law and remove the people who have broken into your home, and all of a sudden everybody's on their side and you're the horrible person? You'd be outraged. But for whatever reason, particularly people on the left, well, I know why. It's a combination of Trump derangement syndrome and, I'll just use the term that I think gets overused so often, brainwashed by the left. I don't know, maybe you're a business owner and you're a left-winger. What happens if you find out somebody's stealing from you? They break in illegally to your location and they steal from you. You're probably going to have a problem with that, aren't you? But boy, somebody breaks into this country illegally and they're funneling away illegally millions and millions of dollars. All of a sudden, somehow that's okay. Until they do it to you directly. Well, no, that's different. No, it's not different, other than it happened to you. Directly. Going to take a break, got a traffic update. Couple other bits of information there. Evidently, this woman is probably, if you were asked ahead of time, all right, well, as a woman, take a guess what sort, just to draw a picture in your mind, probably going to be pretty much on point. Apparently she was once upon a time married to a guy, had a kid, and I don't know what happened, but now she has a life partner who's a female, who was there on the scene. There's videotape, apparently, of her, and she's crying, "This is my fault because I'm the one who talked her into coming here." There are reports that she also has other kids, but she doesn't have custody of them. I don't know if that's a legal thing. Her former father-in-law says, yeah, there are a couple of other kids, but they don't stay with her. They stay with extended family. She's a poet. It's just, unfortunately, it's the stereotype of what has become known as one of the most damaging demographics to this country, and it's the white liberal female. More coming up. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see showers and thunderstorms mainly before 3 p.m. with a high near 67. Tonight, isolated showers before 9 p.m. with a low around 40. For your Friday, partly sunny with a high near 54. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 45.
Ozarks elder law Lori Rook, the ladies in white. Many of you know them. Many of you have taken that step of responsibility to utilize their services. If you haven't, I recommend you do. Whether that is if you are 18 years or older. It is a will, or it is power of attorney situations, maybe not even for you, but for a loved one, planning where it is, or rather how it is, you will pay for that nursing home. And that may not even be something that you think is around the corner, but the further out, the more options you have. There are in Missouri 5 different ways nursing homes can be paid for that might not require you to sell the home in order to do it. But every day that goes by is a day that increases the likelihood you have less options, to the point sometimes you are left with 0. These are all things that they can help you prevent, and that is to be prepared for. And I know it's alluring. You hear ads on the radio, you see on television, oh, for $199, just download off the internet, do it yourself. You really think it works that way? I mean, you just think about, you're talking about being up against the government. Do you think the government, with all of their resources, all of their bureaucracy, is going to go, oh, well, we didn't know you downloaded something off the internet. Never mind, you're fine. No, doesn't work that way. OzarksElderLaw.com. What do you need to have done to protect yourself, your family? Consultations free, 10 area locations, and you can find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. There's so many different aspects of this shooting that took place yesterday. You have, this is in an environment that the left has created, which is all based off of they get to set up the rules and change the rules at any given time. Once upon a time, it was pretty bipartisan. If there is a law on the books, you are expected to obey the law. If you do not, we have people in law enforcement that enforce those laws, and you are expected to comply with law enforcement and then have your day in court. That's the way it worked for everybody. And if there was a law that was determined or believed by some to be a law that should not be on the books, then you undo the law, or you attempt to undo the law. And if you don't have enough people on your side in order to do that, you don't have enough votes, then you work to get enough votes. And then you overturn the law. And if the law no longer exists, then that lack of law is applied to everyone equally. The Democrats have created this environment in which they get to decide which laws are enforced and which ones are not. And perhaps more importantly, they get to decide which people are prosecuted under certain laws and which others aren't prosecuted. This environment has made people on the left feel as if they have the right to just ignore law enforcement if law enforcement is trying to enforce laws that they don't like, which leads to situations like this. I can guarantee you the mindset of this woman who was trying to block ICE, and then whenever they attempted to detain her, went to flee the scene in a manner that hit an ICE officer. And I don't care whether it was intentional or not. The law does not distinguish. That was a weapon, and law enforcement had the right to use deadly force in order to protect himself. So it's irrelevant whether it was, I worry about getting stuck in the weeds on that because that's irrelevant. Whether she intended for it to be a weapon or not. But I can guarantee you, in her mind, she was not doing anything she should not have been able to do. And in her mind, it wasn't even, oh, I'm fighting against the trying to flee. I think she just, in her mind, this is no big deal. This is not the sort of action that would potentially lead to the use of deadly force, because the left has taken these people and they make sure that they listen to no outside voices whatsoever. They create an echo chamber, yes, just like a cult. And because of that, they lose touch with reality as to what the consequences are for one's actions. It's that same approach taken by the left that has led over the years to people of color not recognizing the consequences of physically fighting with police officers. I mean, I'm sure it's circulated a great deal during the Summer of Love, where Black Lives Matter, along with Antifa, were going around killing people and burning cities to the ground. And it was this I think it was actually a video that was crafted after a set by Chris Rock about how it is, if you're black, not to get shot by police. And, it was just kind of the same thing that we all know. Don't try to steal their gun. Don't shoot at them. Don't do things like that. But because the left creates this environment in which they make it seem as if it's no big deal to ignore these laws if you fit into this category or if it's this sort of law. Immigration laws, for example. And that the laws are bad and you should ignore them and you're righteous for, and they conflate protesting against the law with interfering with the enforcement of the law. When you do that, the people inside that bubble lose touch with the reality of what happens when you fight with law enforcement, or you try to run over law enforcement, or you try to steal law enforcement's weapon. And then to compound the problem, when the reality unfolds, you have the people on the left that act as if the person defending him or herself, the person who is in the right, is the person who is in the wrong. I mean, already. You have Mayor Fry. I'll just play the audio for you, so you hear what a deplorable person this is. This is the mayor of Minneapolis, the one who panders to talks in Somali, tries to swallow down Somali food on camera, and not hiding the fact that he finds it to be disgusting. This is after the shooting took place.
Better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis.
Now, do you think that makes it more or less likely that left-wing activists will engage with ICE in a way that increases the likelihood somebody is going to lose their life? We know the answer to that. And let me tell you something else the Democrats do too. This is their point. We have to let go of this idea that the Democrat Party is populated with individuals, and I'm particularly talking on the elected level, that don't understand the consequences of their incitement. That is their point. They know what they are doing. They want these things to happen. Just like those 5 Democrats who made the video telling people in the armed services it is your sworn duty to ignore orders that you think aren't legal. They wanted dissent in the ranks. They wanted fights within the military. They wanted some sort of massive conflict to occur. They don't do these things without purpose. It's very deliberate. When they run around falsely claiming that law enforcement is systemically racist and that they are targeting black men, killing them just for sport, they know what they're doing. They are attempting to incite, and they did it successfully, a specific reaction from their support base, and that is one that believes this is life and death. It's righteous. We need to fight back. And self-defense is something that we have the right to employ, which is killing police officers and burning cities to the ground. When they tell their supporters ICE agents are the Gestapo and are disappearing people and they're handcuffing kids, they're doing it to solicit a specific reaction from their base. And it is this sort of, and I'm telling you, I know this is a difficult thing to believe, they want these things to occur. They want these deadly interactions to occur because this then gets them a step closer to total chaos. It is the same reason that Hamas would hide missiles and other terrorist assets in hospitals and other elementary schools, because they wanted young people to lose their lives so they could use that in order to help stir up the chaos. So they could use that in order to point to the evil Jews and to show the world how bad Israel is. This is what Democrats are doing when it comes to law enforcement in this country. They are inciting their base using language of Gestapo and separating families and everything else that they use. And they're killing people in an effort to get things like what occurred yesterday to occur. Because if you notice, immediately you had the rhetoric step up. They didn't back off. You don't have the mayor of Minneapolis saying, whoa, we all need to take a breath. He says, get the F out, ICE. He's fanning the flames. You have one council member, Minneapolis, say, well, he could have just gotten out of the way. Creating the narrative that this was unnecessary, that he just decided, instead of just stepping out of the way, I think I'll murder this woman. U.S. Representative Goldman, Democrat, New York, has officially declared that the ICE agent should be charged with murder. See, they're amping it up. They want more of this. They know what results they have managed to create with their rhetoric thus far, and they're stepping it up. They're striking while the iron is hot. Representative Hakeem Jeffries claims that there's absolutely no evidence to justify this shooting, sending the message that ramming your vehicle into a member of law enforcement is perfectly fine. That doesn't justify law enforcement using deadly force. When you tell the world that force is not necessary in order to protect your life in law enforcement, if somebody is utilizing a vehicle in a manner that can kill you, you are watering down that action as not that big of a deal. And then you had Tim Waltz also. Oh, there's no evidence whatsoever this was necessary. And I know this is what you have to understand. You're saying, well, of course there's evidence. I mean, we saw her hit you. First off, she tried to block ICE from carrying out their lawful obligation. Then she refused to get out of the vehicle. Then she tried to flee, and in doing so, intentional or otherwise, legally irrelevant, hits a member of ICE. So you're like, well, of course there's evidence. See, what they're not saying that didn't happen. They're saying that that is not reason for law enforcement to protect themselves. They are trying to create this environment in which that behavior is acceptable. They know what they're doing. We have to let go of this idea that we have a two-party system in which both parties, they have different ideas of how to do things and different constituencies. But, ultimately, we all believe in law and order. Ultimately, we all believe if you don't like the law, that you try to change the law. And, that is how a functioning republic or democracy continues on and transition. That's not what we have in this country anymore. We have one political party that is actively, knowingly, purposefully mobilizing people in their base to rise up, whether it's in the military and to destroy from within, or it's on the streets to attack law enforcement or ICE agents. And then you have instances, you've got a number of elected Democrats saying that once we get in power, we're going to start rounding up and arresting these ICE agents. We do not have two political parties that believe in our system of government any longer. One of the two is all about power and ignoring the rules they don't like, utilizing rules against people that they don't like, and encouraging and inciting violence against those who are sworn to uphold the laws that many of those very Democrats voted to put into place. And I know that's a difficult mind shift to accept, but if we don't accept it, we can't fix it. And those of you who vote Democrat because they hold your policy values, I think you got some real soul searching to do here. And unfortunately, while we do see increasing number of Americans that have walked away from the Democrat Party, and it doesn't mean you have to walk into the Republican Party, but I think there's a sad and disturbing number of American individuals who will be just fine with this and go along with it. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Now, of course, the media is going to do everything they can, and they already full blown to do this. The bad guy is the wonderful person. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune headline: "She was an amazing human being. Mother identifies woman shot, killed by ICE agent." And I mean the entire thing, talking, oh, she was just so wonderful. Quote, "She was loving, forgiving, affectionate, an amazing human being." And I mean, it just goes on and on. And even, I know this is going to validate what many of you have been saying for some time now, and that is how KY3 locally has turned into this left-wing propaganda machine. They posted from one of their sister stations, "Now a family is without a mom. Kansas City neighbor remembers woman shot, killed by ICE." Apparently she used to live in Kansas City. And it's another gush piece. The incident itself in the story posted on KY3 describes it as the following: "The shooting happened on Wednesday morning, January 7th, during the Trump administration's latest immigration crackdown. Renee was shot in front of a family member during a traffic stop south of downtown Minneapolis. Mayor Fry criticized the deployment of more than 2,000 officers to Minneapolis. Multiple witnesses said Renee was just driving away when ICE agents killed her." That's how they describe it, as a traffic stop, and this mom was just driving away, and then they opened fire on her. Not that she was blocking law enforcement, not that she was trying to evade and hit a police officer in the process. The piece on KY3 goes on to say Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called the incident an act of domestic terrorism, saying she allegedly attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. However, videos of the incident never show that happening. Oh, okay. Don't know what video they observed. Got to jump over to traffic again. Got them pretty tight, back to back.
Breaking hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. The fatal shooting of a motorist by an ICE agent in Minneapolis has protesters on the streets of the city. The motorist was shot as agents struggled to enforce federal immigration law amid day-long efforts by agitating demonstrators to thwart their efforts.
Anger in Minneapolis after an ICE officer shot and killed a driver. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem alleged the woman was trying to run over agents.
She had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement but she refused to obey their commands.
To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry.
But Governor Tim Walz says
They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do.
That report from correspondent Ben Thomas. Nome says the agent who fired the shot yesterday was previously attacked by an anti-ICE protester who hit him with a vehicle and then dragged him for some distance 7 months ago. The House has voted to move ahead on a health care bill over the objections of the Republican leadership.
9 GOP lawmakers joined Democrats to win a test vote on a bill that would extend health insurance subsidies that expired last month. The tally of 221 to 205 means that the House will formally vote on a 3-year extension. All of this came about because enough Republicans joined with Democrats in signing a so-called discharge petition to force the vote, overpowering House Speaker Mike Johnson. Craig Clugston, Washington.
A manhunt is underway for the gunman who killed 2 people outside a Mormon church in Salt Lake City yesterday. They were gunned down in the parking lot as a funeral was taking place inside the building. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 194. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Meet Lee Platts, a renter whose possessions fill not only her apartment, but also the darkest corners of a mini storage unit. A land of both truth and fiction. Truth: everything inside is protected by Progressive. Fiction: one day Lee will fit into her clothes from senior year of high school. Renters: discover coverage for what you love and what you can't get rid of in Progressive's Protection Zone. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers.
Sheepdog, in theaters January 16th.
Just want to wake up in the morning and feel something.
U.S. Army veteran Calvin Cole confronts his past and through the tough love and support of his community finds the courage to rebuild.
Something fall apart.
Raw, real, and powerful, critics hail Sheepdog as one of the best films of the year, and the Charlie Kirk Show declares it a must-see film. See Sheepdog in theaters Friday, January 16th. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Some fiery talk from the Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez, responding to President Trump's claim that the Cuban government is on the verge of collapsing following the dramatic takedown of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro.
Rodriguez used the strong words. He said, the nation is ready to fight against imperialist aggression, and for our homeland, we are ready to give our own lives. But for the people we spoke with here in the streets of Havana, U.S. Operation Absolute Resolve in the
Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everyone. Welcome. My name's Nick Reed. Tomorrow, Friday, be broadcasting live at Scramblers. We were reading to you a couple of these propaganda pieces about the individual that drove her vehicle into that ICE officer and subsequently was shot. And, you'd think it was Mother Teresa. The most loving person ever. Oh, so wonderful. Oh, and they're putting up this picture of her that looks all beautiful. And I just think how different treatment she's getting by the media than Ashley Babbitt got. Ashley Babbitt, who, by the way, didn't have a weapon. Ashley Babbitt, who wasn't in any way, shape, or form close enough to a law enforcement official to cause him harm. Ashley Babbitt, who was never told stop or I'll shoot. She was shot and killed because she was in the Capitol when she was said she wasn't supposed to be. And she was treated like, well, that's what she gets. And the person who shot her, the Capitol Hill police officer, was treated like a hero. Look at how the media is treating this woman who did defy orders to stop after she was obstructing justice and assaulted a police officer by running her vehicle, which is legally considered a deadly weapon, into a police officer. And then when he uses self-defense, he's the bad guy. Oh, he certainly isn't a hero. He's not labeled as someone who saved lives on that day. If you're in the media and you present Ashley Babbitt as somebody who should have known better, who had it coming, and the person who killed her as some sort of heroic member of law enforcement that should be respected, but now you're reporting this woman who actually did assault with a deadly weapon a police officer, she is some victim. She's a mom. She was a loving neighbor. How do you reconcile that with yourself? Do you just ignore it? You say, so what? I'm dishonest. This is where you have to understand, people who really do look for truth and treating people equally and treating situations as opposed to, well, now which side am I on here? People like, in that category, look at you and can't quite figure out how it is you decide what's right and wrong. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers and thunderstorms mainly before 3 p.m. with a high near 67. Tonight, isolated showers before 9 p.m. with a low around 40. For your Friday, partly sunny with a high near 54. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 45.
I want a great homeloan.com for all of those home loan needs, and sometimes you just want to move. A lot of times people wait for particular interest rates, or depending on the economy, they're less likely to move. You think, well, I got a great interest rate now. I'm going to sit here. I'd like to move. We need to move, but we're going to wait for interest rates to come down. Listen, there are so many things below the surface that the average person doesn't know. And frankly, even a lot of people that are in the traditional loan industry aren't really in tune with. And so people miss out on opportunities that really pass them by because of some of those conventional wisdoms that really aren't in touch with reality any longer. So point being is characters in their team, they can give you the best advice that exist, and they can give you a lot of information that you may not necessarily be aware of, and also give you perspectives on whether refinancing, whether it is refinancing or reverse mortgages or home loans that in all likelihood you haven't thought of before. And let me tell you also, if you have already visited with maybe someone else and you're like, well, let's see what we can do, and they provided you with information and options that didn't fit what you were looking for, have a crack at it with the characters in their team. And you may find still it isn't the right time for you, but they are known for coming up with opportunities and options that people haven't been given before through their traditional means. So I recommend that you reach out to them. I want a great homeloan.com. It's where you get started. And you can also find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Christy Fulnecki with us today.
Good morning, everyone. How are
How's
you
it
doing?
Happy New Year.
Happy New
to
Year.
you. Your holidays, I trust, were
chaotic,
I'm sure,
as usual.
yes,
Even more chaotic this year. But yes, it was great. And that was fun when we had Samantha on. That's the first time I've done an interview with her.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that was what, 3 weeks ago now? Or
has it been 2 or 3 weeks?
Or maybe 4.
No, it was a week before Christmas.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
So 3,
I don't know. Why are you looking into the distance?
I was looking.
This is starting off very strong this morning.
Looking to see what the date was today, because I don't.
Okay, a little confusion this morning.
You had her on the 18th.
Okay.
Oh, good job, Sarah.
It's like 3 weeks.
She's the other side of your brain. So, yeah, it was great. My daughter, Samantha, and then her sisters went out to the Turning Point.
Oh, that's
Fest. Yeah, they had a great time. Yeah, and she was interviewed, I think, a few times, Fox and Newsweek.
Did she meet Riley while she was out there?
Oh, yeah, she met Riley.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, and they had their picture taken together.
So cool.
And so they're friends now. That's pretty cool. And they're, just when we think everything's going to die down, there's another cycle of news. So.
Right. Well, I did see what was a couple weeks ago that the fired TA was appealing.
Right. Yeah, I think was last week. And then, I don't know, there's some petition of, I guess, TAs. I don't know if it's just from the university. They're signing some petition to say that she needs to be reinstated, but good luck on that. I don't think the appeal's gonna be successful, but I don't know. It's just, even when you think it's gonna die down, it goes back. So I still have security protecting all of us right now. We still have all the crazies.
Well, and when it comes to that TA losing his job or her job, I don't even remember whatever.
His, because he was born as a man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Biologically.
Actually, yeah.
Scientifically as a man.
Yeah, scientifically.
And for the same reasons that Samantha expressed, it's not about punishment. This is somebody that clearly cannot do their job.
Yeah.
That's the thing that whenever it comes to oftentimes calling for people to be, like, for example, there was a debate on the right about people in certain jobs, like the schools. Here's a teacher that essentially praised Charlie Kirk's assassination, and then whether that person should be fired. And a lot of people on the right who are very big into free speech, like, well, now wait a minute, we shouldn't police speech. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's about whether or not this person has the temperament to teach children.
Right.
And I don't care if you don't have the judgment to know you shouldn't celebrate it's like, and how is that teacher going to treat a student that has a Charlie Kirk shirt on? You know what I mean? It's like that. It's not punishment or retribution. It is a person displaying that they are incapable of doing a particular job.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. If you are grading papers and you grade someone poorly because it hurts your feelings,
Yeah.
not because of the merits of the piece, then you aren't capable of handling that job, and you should not be in that
you're
job.
just a bunch of hypocrites. They do exactly what they accuse us of doing. They push their political views and their ideology on us. And I mean, she definitely does not need to be teaching. But I think it's not a really formal being fired, because I think she has to go through classes and
Sure.
and all this other stuff. So I mean, I'm sure I know that's right. I don't know. It's but the good thing that came out with all of this is that there have been many students that have contacted Samantha, and I've seen some of the professors, I think it was at Harvard, and a lot of them are calling out all of this woke behavior. So I think it's good that people are standing up and fighting back, and it kind of started with Charlie's organization. So what a great legacy that he left, to give people courage to stand up for what they believe in. But I mean, we have 3 kids in college, and out of the 6, and you think you're paying for this BS. I mean,
well, it's the same thing with taxes.
Yeah, right.
You look at the things that our tax dollars go for, and then you have at least one political party that defends it. It is amazing to me that you have a state like Minnesota.
Yeah, I was going to say,
in which those people have been. It's been revealed to them, and I mean all of us, but we don't have a vote when it comes to our federal tax dollars that the Tim Waltzes of the world have funneled to people for purposes, that are illegal.
You're just insensitive because you're not
right.
Tamales.
And it's like, okay, I don't have a vote in that. My federal dollars get used for that, but the people in Minnesota, this is what they're doing with your money, and they'll still keep that political party in power.
It would be interesting to live there as a conservative and see and find out if they have known that this has been going on to the scale that it has.
I know that in fact, I read a story to this point from August of 24 about how Tim Waltz was under scrutiny because of $250 million of COVID fraud. It had something to do with Somalia. It was COVID instead of the
really?
So point being is this stuff has been going on. It's just the media covered it up for him, and I think that Republicans in Minnesota know everyone knows, so they're like, well, we can't really make a campaign issue out of it because nobody cares. They keep voting for these people anyway. It's amazing because I don't know whether the Somali culture is responsible for turning Minnesota into Somalia in terms of the way it operates,
right,
or if they just coincidentally, like, well, this worked out nicely. I don't know how all of that panned out, but I mean, it's just crazy. And now you see, based off what happened yesterday with this shooting, the open encouragement of lawlessness, of people fighting back.
It's like a third world country.
It is like a third world country.
It's crazy.
And that's how Somalia exists. I mean, it's the same thing. And so now you have individuals that are enforcing the law, and they're being accused of murder.
I know. I mean, and to think, really, I think J.D. Vance said last night, some very high percentage, it was like 85% of Somalians are on welfare.
I think it's 87 or it's somewhere.
87. It seemed like it was really high. And I thought, that's incredible. How do the Americans just generally probably don't know that, or didn't know that until recently? And I don't think that, I think this is the issue he was talking about, that he didn't realize what a big issue it was just until the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you know what? It is just, and then he was talking about, going to California and that they're next. And thank you to Gavin Newsom for inviting us to California after he made threats on, come on in.
Yeah.
Wait till they get there, what they're going to discover.
Yeah, Gary,
all the fraud going on.
A Gary Hart style invitation. Sure, come investigate me.
Hey, that's not a problem. They were all like laughing behind the scenes. Like, is he an idiot? Just wait till we get to your state, Gavin.
Here's what I want reporters to start asking the Tim Waltzes and the Mayor Fries and all of these other Democrats. What other laws do we get to ignore?
Right, yeah.
Because we're told immigration laws that those laws are not supposed to be enforced. So what other laws?
Yeah.
Do we get any as citizens? Do we get to pick some?
Right, right.
How about income tax laws? Can I just refuse to pay income taxes and then have some political party say that that's my right to do that, and then push back against the government when they enforce the law and say, no, you have to pay this?
It only applies to conservatives. We have to follow the law. Because, look at this. Really is irritating to me because all of this has just happened a few days after the January 6th anniversary. So you're inciting the same thing that you accused us of, which was a total setup. So, we have to follow the law, not them.
Well, and again, what is the foundation for their argument is that laws that pertain to property, like the invasion, the illegal trespassing into our country, should be ignored. But if you trespass into the Capitol as an American or a veteran, you can be shot on the spot, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now, how do you figure that one out?
I know.
But I tell you, because the left is always on the side of people who aren't Americans and then criminals after that. Always.
Yeah.
And look at yesterday. And they're going to be out in full protest, not for the person who is simply doing their job and enforcing laws that Democrats also voted to put into place. But no, they're going to be protesting in favor of the woman who tried to run one over. It is the party of crime and the party of terrorism.
Yeah.
And until people start really wrapping their minds around it, I know many people listening get it, and it's really hard to believe that we have turned into that country. It's not unusual. Lots of countries have political parties that are parties of terrorism and crime. It's not anything unusual. It's just not something that we as a country have had to deal with until recently.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to really sort of realize and understand.
Well, and you think a lot of it is common sense. I know common sense is not common, but you look, like, for instance, is a good example that you think, how can people not see this as self-defense? And obviously it's illegal what she did. But then I'm thinking, okay, not everyone can have mental illness, right? That believes that they're supporting this woman. But then I see all these people that are sending me these messages. A lot of messages of being positive, but just total whack jobs from across the whole entire world.
I know, there's crazy.
Like the whole world. And then I'm thinking, okay, you're from, we got a lot of from France and Australia for some reason that were supportive. But let's see, like UK and I think it was Spain or something. Some of these just really like crazy. A lot of Americans that have been sending messages. And you're thinking now, are these people in different places? Are these people that all have mental illness in all these different places?
No. Well, the internet makes that
that's
possible
true.
because it spreads that stuff because people find each other. I've talked about this in the past. Those crazy people, once upon a time, there would be one or two people, and maybe you'd see them on the street corner, and they'd be holding a cardboard sign, and they'd be yelling about the end of the world and stuff. And there were lots and lots of those people, but they weren't connected to one another. They didn't know each other,
Right, yeah.
But the internet has allowed them all to come together. And so that validates their belief, and then other people see it and kind of get drawn into it, and it's a strength in numbers thing. And so the internet has just allowed those people that otherwise were isolated and sort of ignored to come together and to be portrayed by people on the left who utilize their mental illnesses as if they are a legitimate voice on things.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. But
solved.
It's still solved. Yeah. But still you wonder, like, how can a rational person that lives in Minnesota thinks that this is okay? This Somali thing and with this.
Because I'm telling us, it is like it truly genuine like a cult. There's no moral compass other than the hive mentality and whatever the leadership tells them. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That is all
And,
that
you know,
matters.
I mean,
That's why you can shoot and kill a veteran in the Capitol for trespassing
Yeah,
who's
right.
unarmed, but but then at the same time you can attack a law enforcement officer and then be outraged if they use deadly force in order to protect themselves. You and I, we don't. It's not about the person. It's not about, well, we're on their side, so we have to decide how they're right. It's what happened. What actually
Well,
occurred, and then, well, this is right and this is wrong. They just don't operate that way.
and you know, the craziest thing to see has been Tampon Tim. He has been totally unhinged. I mean, he
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
I know.
losing it.
I know.
I mean, every time I'm like,
I don't think he
he's
ever
like-
had it.
I'm like, what is wrong with you? And that guy was almost our vice president.
But these, back to the earlier point. That's this detachment from right and wrong is how the people who just weeks ago were going on about no kings and no dictators are now holding up banners supporting Maduro.
I know, that's right.
Or even more perfect, they are going hysterical over the idea of the U.S. buying Greenland when Greenland
yeah.
is currently a territory of Denmark, which has a king. So Greenland, literally, those people live under a king, and the no kings people, when it comes to, hey, how about instead of being subject to a king, the people of Greenland instead get to elect a president or have it, it'd be a territory, so they wouldn't have a say in that. But they wouldn't have a king. Who's going to be the number one voice against it? The no kings people.
Yeah.
It's
not rational thinking.
They're
totally,
not. They're
because,
totally
I mean,
irrational.
to thank all the trans and some of the pride in this whole movement are for Maduro. I mean, and the whole thing. I mean, it's illegal to be homosexual in Venezuela.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so you can't. And so I mean, in other countries, they literally will hang you if you're gay. I mean, they don't even realize there's not any rational.
It is a true mental illness.
Yeah, because
It
just
really,
like the
truly
whole
is.
thing with the World Cup and it was Iran and I can't remember the other country that we're gonna play during the Pride game, and everybody's like, "What? Do you realize what they do to people?"
Well, I tell you what,
gay in other countries.
by time that if Iran, I forget which of the teams, but if Iran was one of them, by the time World Cup comes around, it may not be a problem for them. We'll talk about that coming up because of everything going on in Iran right now. And protesters are physically changing street signs to Trump's name in Iran.
Wow, I didn't know
right now.
that.
Yeah, and they are chanting Trump. They're holding up signs for Trump. The people in the streets there that are trying to overthrow the government. So we'll touch on that with Chrissy Fulnecki coming up. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see showers and thunderstorms mainly before 3 p.m. with a high near 67. Tonight, isolated showers before 9 p.m. with a low around 40. For your Friday, partly sunny with a high near 54. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 45. And the Pyramid Roofing Company, when a storm hits, a lot of roofing companies just suddenly show up. In fact, there is a good chance that that may happen over the next couple of days because we have rain in the forecast. But the Pyramid team, they're already here before, during, and long after a storm hits. They don't knock doors, they don't chase storms, and they don't use scare tactics on you. The Pyramid team, instead, they offer free roof inspections. They take tons of photos and videos so you can see what they see, and they also work with you through the insurance process without making you sign anything. And I always like to mention that because not all roofing companies operate that way. So over the next couple of days, if you experience any leaks or drips, reach out to Josh and have him come out and do that free roof inspection for you. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
And Christy Fulnacki with us.
Yes. I just want to correct one thing since the national media is listening to your show. I found out every show that I'm on.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. Well, they probably
because
do
of
the other
you,
days,
maybe,
but
no, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Highly.
Okay. Well, I just know
Highly
that because
doubt
the
it.
New York Times just emailed me a couple days ago. So, so I hadn't looked this up in a while. So it was the criminal. It used to be in Venezuela, the military justice code that would criminalize the same-sex act, being gay. Yeah. Okay. So apparently the Supreme Court overturned it. It was a year and a half or 2 years ago. So I need to correct that. But that's
probably why Trump overthrew the government.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so it's not illegal anymore, but they don't allow same-sex union and they don't have any discrimination laws. So I wanted to correct that because I hadn't looked it up. I knew that from the past,
one point, right.
but I didn't know that Supreme Court overturned it. So I just want to correct that before you go to the next topic. Okay.
Too late.
That's right.
Fake news.
All right, so there's a story. Iranian protesters renamed Tehran Street after Trump. Please don't let them kill us amid crackdown. And
wow,
I think
let freedom ring.
There's been a lot of news going on, and it is getting some mentions, but I think here in the United States, we don't necessarily have a full understanding as to the magnitude of what is occurring in Iran right now. And you have entire cities. Yeah, entire city. We talked yesterday, and according to some of the opposition, protesters have essentially taken over at least 2 cities. And again, I've seen video and pictures of people holding up signs, messages to Trump, Trump's name being chanted, streets being like the street names. They're putting over the banners that have the names of streets, and they're replacing it with Trump. And
wow,
but think, this is such an amazing thing that doesn't get recognized. Think about this for a moment. You have the people of Iran that are invoking Trump's name for the positive, changing street names to Trump.
Yeah.
You also have that sort of thing, and it certainly occurred to a great deal in the past in Israel, in which streets named after Trump, one town was named after Trump.
Yeah.
These are sworn enemies. You're talking about a country that has constantly not just talked about, but undertook efforts to try and wipe Israel off the map. And Trump, because of so many of the things he has done, you have people from these 2 opposing countries that are on the same page when it comes to him in terms of a positive. That is just an amazing thing. Usually sworn enemies don't have the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
That if one's going to love Trump, the other's going to hate Trump. But the fact that the people, the actual people and the citizens, that it's Trump's name, a guy who's not their president,
Yeah, right.
Who is
right.
it, you know? And that's the thing that kills me about all these people on the left that hate him so much. Like, do you even roll over this in your mind? Why these things happen? Why it is that people who are, you know, you people who claim he's a dictator and a king, why is it that you think people who actually live under dictators and kings, number one, try to come here, but two, chant his name as inspiring?
Right. And all the people in Venezuela that were celebrating.
Yes.
I mean,
why
the
do you
people
think
on the
that
ground,
is?
all the videos. I mean, when those videos started coming out, that was just incredible. And I think that was on a Saturday, I think, right? Last Saturday. And we were all watching my family, we were watching the press conference. And so Samantha, the first 2 years she was on the tennis team at University of Oklahoma. So there are a lot of tennis players that are from Venezuela and throughout the United States. I don't know if there's one on OU still, but throughout the United States. So she was showing us all the posts and everything, or real, whatever, stories that all the tennis players were posting. Thank you, Trump. We love you, Trump. Thank you for everything you've done. And these are all these, sports figures in the United States that were saying this. And I was like, wow, that's really incredible. I mean, they were all just, and that she was just showing me all these messages.
And at the same time, too, because we're always concern ourselves with allies and causes, the left, why do these people in Venezuela not deserve this freedom? What is it, because they're brown? Is it because they're brown people? I mean, what's the deal here? You know, they portray Trump as some sort of racist, horrible individual, and they claim that they hate dictators. Trump liberates, quote, brown people from a dictator, and they're mad about it.
I know.
So what is it here? And it's like everything else.
It's just a derangement syndrome.
Yeah, it's not even hypocrisy. They have no moral compass. Zero.
Yeah, right.
They're void of morality. It's just all about a cult, and we hate him, and this is our side. And so consistency is irrelevant. Truth is irrelevant. That's why they can support one thing over here and then the opposite over there. And it's just another way. I will say it is amazing how often they prove to contradict themselves, though.
Yeah.
So often. And but so much of what they say they want, if they were to detach themselves from the hive, Trump does the things oftentimes that you say you want in terms of an outcome. Like here, you claim that you want, what was one of the main reasons for as an excuse in the Biden administration, funnel all this money to the corrupt South American countries? Well, because if we need to make it better for them there. Okay, has any president in our lifetime done anything that drastically set the stage to improve life better for the people in one of those countries?
And Americans didn't die for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So that's exactly what they say they want at the left. That is, Trump actually did what they say that they want. And so it's like, you don't even want what you think you want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And what a miserable way to live your life. Like you say, this is what I want. This is what I'm passionate about. Somebody gives it to you and you hate them. So now you turn against what you want. I mean, that's exactly what. No wonder they're miserable.
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Is it any wonder they're miserable?
Yeah.
Because in their world, the things that they can't ever be happy. Because as long as right now Trump is in charge, because when he does the things and there is the outcome that they claim that they care about so much, they're mad about it.
Yeah.
So there's never any potential for happiness.
Yeah.
It's a mental illness.
But to think that he did, I mean, it's been interesting to see some conservatives. I just noticed, just even like local people on social media, how some of them are against it and say, that we need to not be fighting, other people's wars. I mean, to me, that I don't care. It's not a war, and it's pretty much just a law enforcement exercise, and I mean, it really secures our country. And who cares? A whole thing about the oil, everybody's like, oh, it's all about oil. I mean, who cares? I mean, if it helps the United States and it secures and all the issues with the drugs, I mean, they're acting in our best interest.
I understand that intelligent people can have discussions as to whether, like, well, should we have done this? I get that. I understand that. But the part of the problem is those who say we shouldn't, they use irrational thinking. They're not coming from an intellectual place, you know. But the other thing is, you just can set that aside. Not that that's not an important thing to talk about, but what has been this really is the people of Venezuela win.
Yeah, right.
We win
know,
in terms of national security. It's like, what are the downsides other than it makes Putin mad? I love how all of a sudden Democrats are sidling up with Vladimir Putin on this one and dictator Xi of China because they're opposed to it. And so, suddenly supporting Putin is a good thing, according to Democrats. They're right there lockstep with this guy. But
he's getting due process in the United States.
He's getting due process. What is the downside here? What is the down? The guy wasn't even president. I mean, he clearly, everyone acknowledges he lost drastically, but openly just said, I'm not going to leave anyway. This was part of the big problem. It wasn't just that he had helped run the country into the ground. He wasn't even the president. He's a gang leader who, when he ran for re-election, lost and said, no, I'll stay, which, everything about this.
You're talking about Venezuela, at least on your show, forever. I mean, and how quickly a country can turn around from being so prosperous to, a communist and just a crap hole.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Maduros of the world do when they have control of an entire country.
Yeah. I mean, I guess some of them, some conservatives are saying they were mad because he said, well, he left it open if we had to have boots on the ground. People were like, I'm not sending my kids to.
Yeah, you know what? And that's here's the thing you got to understand about Trump. He never takes anything off the table.
Yeah, right.
Verbally, anyhow. He may strategically in his mind, and I firmly do believe he draws lines in his mind. He knows that's part of what makes him successful. He knows what he is willing and not willing to do. But he knows that there is strength in not letting the opposition know that.
Right.
You don't tell them, okay, just so you know, these are the self-imposed rules that I put on myself. You don't do that. And so whenever Trump says something like, or even when it comes to Greenland, we'll use military force, like, I'm not taking it off the table. Now, that doesn't mean that he wouldn't ever. I don't know what's in his mind, but this idea that because he doesn't take it off the table, that means that that's something he may actually do. He doesn't show his cards to the opposition.
Yeah, I mean,
that is part of his strength.
He's a CEO of our country. That's just what people that are head of companies do all the time. And he doesn't box himself in. I think that's so great. And the funniest thing to me was, I mean, all the memes have been just hilarious. But I love Petro from Colombia, how mad he got because he mentioned his name. He's like, "Is he coming for me? I'll be ready when he comes," or whatever he was saying.
Yeah, you know, the last guy who said that.
You better not do the Trump dance.
Yeah. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. If you have a home that you need to sell or you are looking to buy a new home or maybe both at the same time, Emily Johnson is the key. And if you've never done that before, perhaps you are someone that has always rented and you've not really done the homeownership thing and you've decided that you want to take that step. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I have a cousin that is a realtor or, I've got a family member. And so, hey, they're really going to take care of me. First off, I just don't recommend having, I mean, if it's your husband or wife, you live in the same home, it's a different situation. But this is a massive step. And you are talking about negotiations. This isn't, again, if you've never bought a home before, you may not know this. A lot of people, I think, you think, oh, well, this is how much they want, and boom, and that's it, and it's all taken care of. But there are a lot of negotiations about who pays for what, who pays for closing costs, if there are things that needed to be done in the upgrade of the home, who pays for that stuff. You want Emily on your side with this stuff. So a realtor should be, or at least can be, so much more than just letting you in a house and showing you around and then having you sign the paperwork. If you have Emily Johnson, you get so much more than that. Home buying, home selling, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. And Christy Fulnecki is with us.
Yes. And I want to make one more point, and I didn't know if we're going to move on, but to me, I just heard this last night, which you probably heard this, when Jesse Waters was interviewing Vance, and Vance had said that maybe this is common knowledge, but that their administration had been talking to the vice president of Venezuela for months. Had Rodriguez or
that's
that.
I had not either. Actually, my mom told me that yesterday, and I was like, oh, I did not see that. I did not hear that.
I just happened to pick it up last night. I thought, that is incredible. I mean, maybe all administrations do this, but I thought, I mean, they're just such genius. I mean,
so smart.
And then how do you even approach that? Hey, by the way, do you want to help overthrow your president?
But here, this is where Trump gets it. This is why Trump is successful. He knows how people think, and he knows that vice president is a power-hungry, driven individual, clearly. And so he played into that. Essentially, how would you like to? He played you can be president angle. Now, it may not be permanent. In Trump's mind, that may just be part of the transition, or maybe Trump will give her a chance and be like, listen, I know what you've done and I know who you are, but if you want to, you have the opportunity to be president, you just got to play by our rules, and then you get to be in charge.
No, I mean, that's incredible.
That is what, and I wish people who hated Trump didn't hate him, because they missed the opportunity to really see somebody do things differently and how it works. And he's got those street smarts. That's what he does. He uses people's motivations in order to get them to do what it is that he wants done.
Yeah.
And
that's why he wrote The Art of the Deal. That's why he makes all these deals. And like you said, or life is a deal, or whatever he said. Life is a deal.
Yeah. And I want to just, I know some of this probably doesn't have to be said, but that doesn't mean that every decision he makes turns out the way. Because what happens is, when you tout the success of his approach and then something doesn't go right, they're like, oh, well, look at that. Well, yes, that's right. He's not God.
Yeah,
he doesn't, because there are a lot of variables. But when you're talking about success rate, when you're talking about increasing the likelihood that you're going to get your way, he does it. He knows how to do it.
And to me, like, especially, since and probably most of the people that listen to your show have followed politics forever. I mean, for 30, 40, 50 years or whatever it is. To see someone make the changes that he has made, to have the courage to, Doge, just even starting with fraud, no other president has had the courage to even tackle that. And, your governors and local, there's only so many resources. You can't do anything. But to have a president go in there and, we've been talking about limited government and all this stuff forever. But to have somebody go in there and start doing these things, and
you think about,
it's incredible what he's done. And
you think about 8 months ago, and whatever the outrage of the moment was, whether it was probably tariffs, or it could have been Doge stuff, and just how the media and the Democrats made it seem as if this is the most cataclysmic thing that has ever happened in this country. Here we are a year later, and we don't even talk about that stuff. And right now, the new cataclysm, he's going to start war with Greenland, and he's doing this, and a year from now, only the good Lord above knows what on earth we will be talking about.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, and I was thinking it's almost week to week. He throws everybody off because he's doing things so fast. To think that the guy hasn't even been in office. It's been almost a year. But, he has done so much in 1 year. It's just mind-blowing. And throughout my, at least, lifetime of following politics since, high school or college, I have never seen someone get so much stuff done. No, and to look at what happened in Iraq, and then he goes in Venezuela and takes somebody out. I mean, in the military force and nobody dies and all of a sudden it's over. I mean, just looking back, it is almost incredible.
It
And
is.
I
It
mean,
is. It
and I'm
is.
not saying he's a god, but I think
Right.
in the political realm, I have never been more impressed with anybody in my whole life.
Final thoughts with Christy Fulnecki coming up. We do have also Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone in the 8 o'clock hour. Now traffic. All right, before we get the latest news, a couple minutes left with Christy Fulnecki. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to mention. Or...
No, I mean, I think it's kind of. I think we should like play a game to see what's going to happen next. I mean, everybody's shaking in their boots.
I'll tell you this: I am at least 50% sure by the end of the Trump administration, Greenland will be a territory of the United States. I'm 50%.
So, yeah,
and because the stories that are coming out indicate that Rubio's told essentially that Trump's wanting to buy it from Denmark. And one of the crazy people are like, you can't just do that. Yes, you can. I mean, that's who we bought the Virgin Islands from. I mean, we bought the Louisiana Purchase. That's why it's called Purchase. We bought Alaska from Russia. This is how the territory. This is how it works. You buy property, and it seems as if Trump, for national security purposes that make complete sense, has, Marco Rubio is telling members of Congress this is what he's wanting to do, and Trump knows how to make deals.
And speaking of Rubio, my favorite memes are the ones showing him dressed differently. And it says that Marco finding out he's got to run Venezuela, Iran, Canada, Minnesota, Hilton, and Greenland.
I've said this before. I've gone from somebody that for reasons in the past, not personal reasons, but I didn't care for him, to a really, really big fan of his.
Yeah,
oh yes, absolutely. Trump has no better messenger than him.
Yeah.
He does such a tremendous job. Did you see the J.D. Vance meme about the January 6th memorial that the Democrats held?
No.
So did you see their memorial?
Oh, I saw it when they were
on the steps. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So, yeah, the memorial wasn't, or the vigil or whatever, wasn't for Ashley Babbitt, by the way. The one person killed in the Capitol. But it was a picture. It was more of a close up of like Schumer and some of the others, and they all had sombreros on.
It's hilarious. They should stop singing and they should stop dancing. That is like so awkward, and as my kids would say, cringe.
We were talking about why it is so uncomfortable and why, and I think it's because, one, they are old. So any older person that does that is going to come off as weird. But they're also so out of touch.
It's not, the thing is, Trump is 79. So when Trump does it's funny. It's
true.
You know why? It's because they're not authentic.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
It's all pretend.
I mean, Trump started dancing
because he's full of joy and he
does.
Yeah.
These people are they're miserable and they're trying to be happy, and that's why we don't like to hear them sing.
Christy Fulnecki, as always.
Yes. Thank
Such
you.
a great pleasure. We've got news coming up, and as I mentioned, ABC Books sponsoring our Author of the Week in the next hour or two. I'm Nick Reed. Oh, Kamala Harris says the Trump administration's explanation of the shooting is pure gaslighting. A full and fair investigation at the state level is necessary. I mean, you can see it with your own eyes what happened. Here's what I think is going to happen. I believe that the media and the Democrats are going to try and essentially claim that it wasn't absolutely necessary for the shooting to occur, that if he wanted to, he could have jumped out of the way, that she didn't mean to hit him, but all of that is irrelevant. That is completely irrelevant. There's another component to this that they may attempt to weaponize, and that is the fact that apparently, well, and I believe Kristi Noem mentioned this in her press conference yesterday, this same ICE officer was hit by another Democrat activist not long ago and actually dragged by the vehicle. On one hand, you will have people see that and recognize it as, this is what they're facing. I mean, she noted that yesterday alone there were 4 domestic terrorist incidents in which ICE agents were targeted with vehicles. And I forget how many, like 1,300 over a certain period of time. This is something that the left does. They train one another. They coordinate this stuff in terms of, communication. This is something that is a commonplace tactic used by these Democrat activists. So this isn't an isolated incident. This is something that they are doing. And he has been victim of it. And so while you and I will recognize this as further proof of this being a problem, a serious problem, and it needs to be taken care of, I believe the Democrats will weaponize their own attacking people like this officer and then say it was reckless for that because he was attacked once before and drugged by a vehicle, that caused him to act in a way that he should not have. And they may even use the fact that he did not use deadly force when this happened to him before as proof that he knew he shouldn't have done it. But because of that situation before, and then they'll blame the Trump administration, that the Trump administration put him in that position, or Kristi Noem put this person in that position, and it was that reckless decision-making that led to this. Now, I don't know that they'll get to the level of that the initial step here is because it's undeniable. She hit the guy, the ICE agent. So the out of the gate will be a combination of downplaying that. Well, we don't know that she meant to. He could have jumped out of the way. But it's important to remember that is all irrelevant. Or nitpicking over whether or not she hit him before or after he shot her, as if that is relevant, and that also is not relevant. You don't have to be you don't, in law enforcement. If somebody's coming at you with a knife, you do not have to wait until you get stabbed with the knife in order to shoot. If somebody pulls a gun on you and you are a police officer, you do not have to wait for them to actually shoot you in order to use self-defense. If somebody is coming at you with a vehicle, you do not have to wait until they hit you in order to use deadly force. And to draw upon the same comparison, for those who will argue, well, he could have jumped out of the way, if somebody comes at you with a knife, you don't have to try and get out of the way before you use deadly force. If somebody pulls a gun on you, you are allowed to use deadly force in law enforcement. You don't have to, well, first, did you try to hide? Did he try to avoid getting shot? That's not how it works. Legally speaking, that vehicle is a weapon. And her usage of it and the officer's reaction to it is no different than if it had been a gun or a knife or any other sort of weapon. Before we get to the latest news update, we've got Author of the Week as well, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. All right. Pinnaker Honda, January. I'm gonna list here a couple of the incredible deals as we make our way into the new year that are underway. We're talking about a lot of 26 vehicles. Honda HR-V 2.49% APR for 48 months. Now, if you are into leasing, 26 Honda Civic Sedan LX lease for $199 a month. If you are, and there's a number of other 26 deals, I recommend that you do stop by or you visit their site. If you are interested in a 25 Honda Civic hatchback, starting at $27,742. Now, at the time that this information was relayed to me, they had only one of the 25 Civics left. But they are very motivated to sell. So if it, as of today, this morning, is still on the lot, and that sounds like something you may want to take advantage of, I recommend either reaching out to them today or making your way over there today, because I suspect it will not last long. Also, a 25 Honda Pilot, 2.49% APR, or $1,500 sales credit. Some of what you can find with the Pennegar family, Pennegar Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see showers and thunderstorms mainly before 3 p.m. with a high near 67. Tonight, isolated showers before 9 p.m. with a low around 40. For your Friday, partly sunny skies with a high near 54. And for Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 45.
Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed, and of course, Thursday means author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. And our author today, Chris Salcedo. If you ever happen to be driving through the Houston or Dallas Fort Worth area, hear him over the airwaves there. Also, seen him on Newsmax TV as well as numerous other locations. And his book is The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. And I got to tell you, the first thing I noticed is that it wasn't titled The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latinx. So that was quite shocking.
Yes. And there's actually a section in the book we dedicate to the absurdity of all of that. And if you want to get into it, we can. But there's a larger reason why I believe the rise of the liberty-loving Latino translated into the election of President Donald J. Trump in record numbers for the America First coalition. And it was because of terms like Latinx. It was because of, and the Democrat Party had basically lost its mind, saying that little Johnny can be little Susie can be little Johnny.
Right.
The best woman for the job is a man in women's sports, or of course men can have babies. Latinos said, wow, that's crazy. And so let's have a look at what's going on the other side. And thank God there was President Trump there, and not like Mitch McConnell being the standard bearer for the Republican Party, or Paul Ryan, or some of these individuals who are your standard surrender caucus Republicans. Thank goodness we had somebody like President Trump that gave Latinos a place to go.
Well, you mentioned that, and I think back to that period of time when he was first running, and one of the strongest voices in the we'll lose all Hispanic support forever was Jeb Bush, and he'd speak Spanish every once in a while, and that there was that universal message that any inroads we've made as a Republican Party with the Hispanic voter is going to be completely obliterated under Donald Trump. And it's just such an amazing thing to see that not only did that not happen, but the tremendous progress that has been made.
Right. And I think it's so interesting you pointed out the Bushes, the surrender caucus type Republicans who have more in common with socialists and Marxists than they do with American conservatives. These individuals, think about what Jeb Bush and George W. Bush were saying. We need to appeal to Latinos because everybody knows that Latinos believe in lawlessness and don't like the Constitution and like illegal immigration. Talk about a racist point of view to assume that all Latinos are represented by what I call loudmouth leftist Latinos and not liberty-loving Latinos who are just as conservative, just love America just as much as anybody else does who is pro-American and part of the America First coalition. The assumptions made, I think, by those who had other interests, more maybe corporate interests, not necessarily American interests, by Republicans like the Bushes, are indicative of why Trump has been such a success, because he's drawing that contrast that I think that Americans are looking for.
We are talking with Chris Salcedo, the book, The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. I'm not one that throws around the racist label that often. I think it gets overused so largely. But I got to tell you, I'm just curious your thoughts on this. During the entire illegal immigration debate, which really started during the first Trump administration, or even, I guess, as he was running for president the first time around, you would hear people on the left openly say things along the lines of, who's going to take out your trash, Donald Trump? If you deport illegals, who are going to clean your toilets? And I remember thinking genuinely, damn, that's racist. I mean, just
yes.
blows my mind. And the fact that you can tell the times that they have said it, they so genuinely meant it. To me, I think that is an instance where the term racist is accurately applied.
Indeed. And you know, when we started listening to this whole debate about whether or not we as a country should accept, and by the way, we're still having the debate, accept illegal immigration. And this is something I wrote about in the book, and it's a mantra of the Salcedo Show, is illegal immigration is wrong. Illegal immigration is immoral. and illegal immigration is bad for any nation forced to endure it by its political class. I point out quite frequently that illegal immigration has been foisted on this country against the will of the American people by both political parties, for different reasons, but by both political parties. And the very predicate that you can't stand up for the rule of law because you believe doing so is somehow racist. And I always ask this of Democrats who say, well, the reason why you don't want illegal aliens in the country is because you're a racist. And I go, oh, really? So why don't you as a Democrat tell me what race you think illegal is? What race do you think is illegal? And they're, of course, stumped because, of course, leftists in this society never have to take a tough question from the biased press or from non-conservative Republicans.
Well, let me ask you this. There's an equation here, it seems like, and you talked about here in the opening, the Latino community recognizing the insanity of the left because of Latinx and boys can be girls and so forth. And then at the same time, you've got Donald Trump in there speaking common sense. If things stay on the exact same track that they are, does that keep the support within that community about where it is? Will it continue to move to the right, if you will, or does something else need to happen? Because it seems as if there's a holding pattern maybe here. Don't really know which way things are going and what needs to occur to keep the momentum in the direction that it's headed. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. And the big problem we're going to have in 2026 is President Trump's still on the ballot, right? Yeah. And the Republicans have set their mind on. I mean, can you tell me a list of achievements of the Republican Party since they've been in the majority in Congress? I mean, running on the big beautiful bill. I mean, okay, you can go ahead and try that, but the lack of productivity from the Republican Party. This is a danger. They're putting the entire country in danger with their deference and, frankly, their glad handing with Democrats. And it's not like the Democrats have been behaving like Americans. They've been weaponizing the entirety of government against Republicans. They've been weaponizing that they went after the entirety of the Republican establishment with Arctic frost. They went after the leading candidate for the Republican nomination for president with just an insane lawfare. And it's not like the Democrats are benign or it's like, oh, man, we just have this disagreement on this or that particular issue. They went full-bore Marxist on this country. And they targeted the Republicans themselves, and the Republicans still won't defend themselves. And I've asked, and I get applauded in some areas and criticized in others. I've asked Republicans, why are we supposed to vote for you when, number one, you fail to defend us from Democrats, but you won't even defend yourselves?
We are talking with our author of the week, Chris Salcedo. The book is The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. There almost seems to be, and continuing on this theme of the midterm elections, a race to lose potentially. You noting the lack of real potential effective messaging by Republicans. The Democrats almost seem to level out instead of stupidity. But now I'm watching this sometimes real physical divide occurring in some of our cities. On one side, you have white liberals, and on the other side, you have people who are from countries like Venezuela and Nicaragua, and they are all celebrating the arrest of a dictator, and then they're watching the Democrat Party criticize it. They're watching many on the left actually defend and support the dictator that so many of them fled. And I'm thinking to myself, the Democrats are seemingly saying, hold my beer when it comes to figuring out a way to further alienate this segment of the population. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, that goes to also your previous question as well, is how do you keep the enthusiasm in the Latino community going for President Trump? Now, granted, nobody's going to accuse President Trump of not working for the American people. That goes to Congress. They are the ones not working for us. But on this Maduro thing, you're absolutely correct. I mean, you had Ana Navarro, one of the most staunch critics of President Trump, jumping out on The View and saying, look, this was a good thing. You know, this, and think about what the Democrat Party has done, what these leftists and these Marxists have done. They have gone from just a little over 2.5 months ago saying, no kings, to saying, free the dictator, free the socialist dictator. I mean, these people, you're right that as President Trump does everything he can and the Republicans seem hell-bent on losing the midterms, you're right. The Democrats are, with a hold my beer posture, they keep on taking these 20% issues on 80-20. They take the 20% side. And to the Democrats, I say, keep it up. Keep it up. Your anti-Americanism, your hatred of this country and of this president might just drag the Republicans kicking and screaming across the finish line in 2026.
I'm pretty logical person, not one driven by emotion. And you talk about Ana Navarro, and on Tuesday we played audio of that. And then I also played audio of a gal or way south of our listening area, but in Arkansas, Little Rock, and the local TV affiliate talked with an Arkansas resident who was from Venezuela. And what I've noticed, grassroots, you have a lot of these people that are sending a message about what's really going on. And to me, this is in response to what they see on the left of defending dictatorships and acting like Donald Trump is a dictator. And it really does get me to start wading into the emotional. And we played the audio of the woman who resides in Arkansas now saying, listen, you don't know, I've had friends disappear in Venezuela, really truly disappear because they speak out. I've had friends that have gone from, middle income to digging through garbage to try and find food. And, she gets emotional talking about hoping that she can get back to her home now and hug her family that she hasn't been able to. And I think to myself, the audacity of people in this country who live these middle-class lives to claim that Trump is a dictator in the face of real, true victims of dictatorship, it's just inhumane, and it gets me angry.
It should. And think about the sides of this debate on Maduro, right? Who is supporting this action by President Trump? Which, by the way, to all the people out there saying he's going to get us into a war, we're going to war in Venezuela. I kept on saying, no, we're not going to war in Venezuela. If there's any shooting that's done, it's going to be short. And guess what? It was. And he decapitated the head of the socialist snake. And hats off to our military with a flawless execution. They landed in the middle of a military base in Venezuela,
Incredible.
The biggest one. And they pulled this off with Cuban security forces firing at them, no casualties on our side, and took out 32 of theirs, from what I understand. Anyway, so you've got on one side real Americans, freedom lovers, and those who yearn to breathe free, applauding the fall of Nicolas Maduro. On the other side, you've got communist China. You've got leftists in the capitals all over Central and South America. And you've got the Democrat Party bashing President Trump and the fall of Maduro. I've always said there is a new political divide in this country. It's America first and America last. And there are members of both political parties on both sides of that new dividing line. And I think that this anger that you're feeling is going to be one of the defining issues coming into 2026. Just where are you? Are you an American or aren't you? And I think a lot of Americans are going to be real Americans are going to be looking at the Democrat Party and asking that serious question, members of the Democrat Party, hey, are you really an American? Because, and this didn't get noticed by anybody other than me, or maybe if they did, I just haven't heard about it. But did you notice Chuck Schumer, I think he was on with Snuffleupagus. I think it was either that or no, it must have been with Snuffleupagus. So he's talking with Snuffleupagus, and George Snuffleupagus says, hey, Rubio says the United States has the authority to do it. And Chuck Schumer says, no, they don't. No, they don't. As if he's not an American.
Right, yeah.
And I have been saying The Democrat Party no longer wishes to be American. They've set their sight on the Constitution, of its shredding and its erasure from being effective in our lives. And there's Chuck Schumer validating everything I've ever said as he refers to us Americans as they, as he doesn't count himself among us.
Naturally and without thinking, which is it's very, very
Yes.
telling. Chris Salcedo, and I mentioned for the listeners, of course, they could hear you over the airwaves, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Newsmax TV, but also you've got the Salcedo Storm podcast as well, so people can download that the normal places if they'd like.
Yeah, sure. Head over to chrissalcedo.com. That's kind of the one-stop shop for everything.
Okay.
Chris Salcedo, SALCEDO.com. And of course, if you pick up the new book, folks, The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, every book that is purchased, an angel gets his or her wings. So come on, do your bit for king and country.
Thank you, sir. Hey, listen, I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and I can't thank you enough for being with us this morning.
Really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, our author of the week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. For Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick.
This is Springfield's Talk 1041, your home for author.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see showers and thunderstorms mainly before 3 p.m. with a high near 67. Tonight, isolated showers before 9 p.m. with a low around 40. For your Friday, partly sunny with a high near 54. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 45. And wanted to read a review for my friends over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Reagan wrote, Foreman maintains my HVAC system. They come out twice per year to keep me cool in the summer and warm in the winter. The technicians are all very nice and professional. Highly recommend. And I wanted to read that review because the Foreman team, of course, they do service repairs and new unit installs, but they also have a preventative maintenance program that you can join. And it is a really great way to keep an eye on your HVAC and make sure that it is working the way that it needs to. And, they'll catch anything before it becomes a big issue. If it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home, reach out to Russell and his team today. You can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Town Hall has an article with the headline, NBC did something no other outlet will likely do regarding the ICE shooting in Minneapolis. And they note the fact that in some of the just very early coverage, they really broke down the video that shows what happened from the angle of contact with the ICE officer, and credited it with, albeit almost shocking that NBC News would really do fair coverage of it, but noting that in all likelihood that may not be even the continuing theme at that particular network, but the others as well. And I think it'll be interesting to watch because there appear to be two primary videos at this time that are circulating online regarding this incident in Minneapolis. I know that there are others, but there's two real primary videos circulating. One is showing from the back, if you will, the from behind the vehicle itself, and you can't really tell what happens in regards to the vehicle and the ICE officer in that video. The other video, which is from an angle coming from the sort of the front passenger side angle from a distance away. I think somebody may have been filming from their front porch or their home. In that one, you clearly see the officer is hit by the vehicle. I mean, there's no getting around it, and it's not just a little bump. I mean, it is a violent hit of the vehicle of that ICE agent, and that is the one that is relevant if you want to have the most information possible as to what actually happened. So of the videos that are circulating, which one is the media going to continue to show? Now, to me, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to even show the video that is shot from behind because you don't actually see what happens. If you're interested in, as a news outlet, making sure that your viewers have the most accurate information possible, there's only one video to show because the other one's just really not relevant. I don't know that there's an argument to even show both videos unless you do it together at the same time. But I suspect there's a very good chance that we'll see, and here's what I do. I think, how is it that, how do you rationalize it? And I could see, which would be a little bit ironic, but media outlets saying, well, the second video, it might be too disturbing for some viewers, because that's the one where you actually hear or see the ICE officer hit with the vehicle. And so because of that, they'll just show the other video. Well, the other video, of course, that's the relevant part. If they did go that route as a reason to censor and not show the relevant video by claiming that, well, it could be too graphic or too disturbing, they wouldn't say why it was too graphic or too disturbing. They would probably hope the audience would infer because of the shooting part. And they may find that this is a battle that they don't really want to fight, and that it ultimately is very clear, and the Biden administration no longer has the ability to censor social media, and that is a massive difference in terms of how people are receiving information today versus 4 or 5 years ago, where they were able to censor or use the power of government to threaten social media sites into censoring this information, blocking the information, it's misleading or it's not verified. And that just isn't something that the left has, that power of censorship like they did a few years ago. And that may force the media to actually, if they do show and they may just stop showing the video altogether. I mean, there's just a number of approaches they could take. Now, the sad thing is, the media shouldn't have to even be calculating in that way. I mean, I'm sitting here imagining what the thought process is of how to, quote, cover this story. And I imagine I'm pretty spot on in terms of how their thinking is going from an editorial perspective as they make the determination as to what video to show, should we show the video. And you think about how much easier that job is if your goal is simply to provide people with the most accurate information as possible, as opposed to trying to shape the narrative. That's the joke of all of the bias in the media, the extreme effort they go to at times with editing, with omission, to create a narrative so that you understand what it is that you're supposed to understand. How much more effort goes into that, as opposed to if, as a journalist, you see your job as simply making sure that the audience has the most information possible about whatever the current situation is that you're covering. And, sometimes that may take a little extra footwork, but it's not nearly as difficult ultimately. You don't have to calculate. You don't have to manipulate. You're just like, oh, here's what happened. And we got a couple different videos. This one clearly shows, given the claims and the purpose and the reason, the rationale for the shooting, that he was hit. And this is the angle that shows that to the greatest degree. So is that what the media will lead with? Is that what they will solely show? Or will they show the other video or not show any video at all? I suspect we'll see over the next 12, 24 hours. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. I want to read to you what Debbie said. She had worked on around the time that we actually, maybe a little bit before, the time we had our outdoor living space created by Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. And Debbie said, we cannot express how thrilled we are with our backyard makeover, led by Daniel Hunter. From the initial consultation to the final touches, Daniel displayed remarkable expertise, creativity, and professionalism. He patiently listened to our ideas and transform them into a stunning outdoor space that perfectly suits our needs. The design features beautiful stonework, efficient landscaping, and a cozy seating area that has become our favorite place to unwind. The entire team at Hunter Hardscapes was punctual, courteous, and dedicated to delivering exceptional quality. We've received countless compliments from friends and family, and our new backyard has become the highlight of our home. Thank you, Daniel, and the Hunter Hardscape team. We highly recommend the service for anyone, John and Debbie Setzer. And, that could be carbon copy of our experience as well. You can see other reviews on their site, and there is a cost estimation calculator, plus before and after photos of some of the work that they do and the scope of work that they do. I talk a lot about the hardscaping because of the, personal experience I've had in the outdoor living space they created for us, but landscaping, something we plan on having them do for us in the future, is something they do. You have a need for any sort of drainage. They can do that as well. That is an area of their expertise. And lighting for your home, outdoor lighting for your backyard, basically outdoor lighting anywhere that you may want it. HunterHardscapes.com. You can find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. The news at the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network with our town hall news. I don't really catch, or I'll catch some of it because I might be just checking other things during that period of time. But about an hour ago, I had received a text on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line asking if we changed news service, and I was like, well, no, not for a couple years. And then this last news, which I also didn't hear, but a number of you had texted in like, what in the heck is with Town Hall? They sound like CNN, because evidently, again, didn't hear it, but based off of the consistency in feedback from many of you, they referenced, the news referenced Trump's comments that this was a paid protester and used the term without evidence, which has become synonymous with extreme left-wing bias news. And I didn't hear that. That is extremely unusual. In fact, one of the reasons that we switched away from Fox News to Town Hall is because, comparatively speaking, I felt that Town Hall was much, much, much more objective. And there were a lot of things going on at the time. Fox News, they not only had cut Tucker Carlson at the time, but refused to let him out of his contract until after the election, so he couldn't go on the airwaves anywhere. But they kept talking about using insurrectionist. And given that not a single person was ever even charged with the crime of insurrection, I just thought that was very, very poor reporting. And there were a number of other things as well. Point being is Town Hall, they're just, a lot of times people would be like, well, you should get Newsmax, or you should get, they would list other outlets, but they don't provide radio news. And Town Hall did, and they do, I think, far and above an exceptional job when it comes to objectivity. I would consider it an exception to that, being this without evidence crap, and it's left-wing language. Now, that being said, in terms of the content, if Trump did claim that this was a paid protester, I don't know that there is evidence. She clearly is a protester. There's no doubt about that. I don't know. And there may be evidence that she was paid. I don't really know. But aside from whether or not she was, or even if there isn't evidence that she was paid to be a protester, I am opposed to news outlets throwing in that without evidence, because virtually every time anyone makes a claim, they don't provide evidence. You hear any soundbite or a quote from any lawmaker, and whenever they make a declaration, they don't generally, all right, well, here I have right here, I'm citing the source and the information. And so you either, in my opinion, do it every single time, or you don't do it at all, ever. You don't pick and choose. You don't decide 90% of the time to let people make claims without evidence, but don't point it out. But then some of the times you do because that's bias. Why this time? So, I'm not overly concerned about this being something that is a sign of, here goes town hall news, because it certainly is the exception to what I find to be their traditional reporting. Doesn't mean that it's acceptable at all. In fact, I'll probably send an email and make sure that they know we have gotten feedback on it, just so they're aware. But, you're more than welcome as well. I mean, Salem Radio Network, I'm sure if you go to their site and I'm sure they have a contact us. And if you ever have concerns about the content, we always definitely want to know, but you can oftentimes directly reach the folks who provide the content as well. But anyway, enough of you had sent a message, and so I thought, well, it definitely is worthy of addressing, because we love the feedback. You know what they say, we're all in this together. Man, I hate that phrase ever since COVID. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Oh, I failed to mention, had a really great, this was on Monday, Godfather's Pizza Delivery to Fairgrove High School. They were the latest winners of the pizza party and the teachers' line. They really did it right, because it was first day back, but students weren't back yet, and had just fantastic folks up there, and they were very, very excited to get Godfather's Pizza. Had just a tremendous amount delivered. I went and picked them up, and it was still somewhat cool outside, and those pizzas were steaming, and the whole back seat was filled. And when I was all said and done, I had to turn on the defrost and roll down the windows, because it was filled with steam. It was filled with pizza steam. I was like soaked in pizza steam, and oh boy, it was delicious. So you can go if you want to get registered. Chance to win a pizza party in the Teachers Lounge. Go to ksgf.com and find the relevant information there. Get yourself registered, and you don't have to be a teacher. It was a principal who actually won at the high school there, and this is just to It's the answer to school pizza parties, and so many of us remember that when you're in school, and if you got to have a pizza party, maybe there'd be a contest, a penny collection, or a canned food collection, and whatever classroom got the most won a pizza party, and that sounds fun. But when you're the teacher, or the custodian, you're the one that has to clean it all up, and it's a mess, and the kids are out of control, and it's just not nearly as fun if you're a teacher. And so that's why we're doing it this way. The kids are cut out of it. So if you work at a school, you can, we'd love for you to register. And a huge thank you to Godfathers. They're just so incredibly generous and love doing stuff with the community, and have, in my assessment, some of the absolute best pizza that you can find around. And I know specifically Springfield location, they have a buffet too. After COVID, so many people lost the ability to access the beloved pizza buffet, and there's a few that still do that, and Godfather's Pizza is one of those, so a huge thank you to them. 9 House Republicans defy Mike Johnson, join the Dems to advance Obamacare extension vote. Now, this was a vote to advance it to have a vote. Presumably, those same 9 Republicans would vote in order to reinforce Obamacare, but, this is lack of leadership. And you can say what you want for somebody like Nancy Pelosi, but she would not have had a problem keeping her members in line. This is something that, when it really comes down to it, Mike Johnson doesn't appear to have that same ability. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.